My name is Rahul Samuel. I'm a live sound engineer and an acoustician.
I'm Jalaja. I'm a communication consultant.
And both of us together, we did this trip last year. I'm sure a few of you saw the posters and you know what this talk is about. So we're going to talk about this trip and a few things around it. One is we'll talk about the trip itself. We have some pictures, we have some stories that we've gathered along the way, and we'll talk about what we learned. There are a lot of things that we learned from doing this trip. We will also talk a little bit about how to prepare for a trip like this in case, I'm sure most of you would want to do a trip like this at the end of this talk, but in case you want to do a trip, we'll talk about how to prepare. And if we have time in the end, we're going to try and answer some questions that some of you might have, or if you have something that you want to share with the rest of us, we can do that as well. And during this whole talk, we're going to have some goodies that are going to be going out. You're going to answer, I'm going to ask you some questions, and the ones that answer get the goodies. So let's get down to the talk. Now, why do we travel? What is the one thing that comes to your mind when we say travel? Road is your home, see new things, freedom, de-stressing. So we can come up with a big list like this. I'm sure travel means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To both of us, what travel meant, for me especially, I love machines, I love technology. And for me, motorcycles is the best way to keep in touch with machines. So my love for motorcycles gets me down to traveling. Both of us love food, so that's another reason we travel. We travel to go and try food from different places. We travel to experience different cultures. Luckily, within our country, we have so many cultures to explore, so many cultures to get in touch with. We get to see new perspectives. Someone already said that, new things, new perspectives. We learn a lot about ourselves when we travel. How many of you agree? More than the surroundings, more than the place, we get to learn a lot about ourselves, new things about ourselves that we discover. Suddenly we discover we have a new skill that we have acquired but never used, and we only use it when we travel. That's because we have a clear mind when we're traveling. And we also travel for cool profile pictures. All of us like to go on a journey, on a trip, and come back and put up those profile pictures. I was just joking. And we travel to make an experience. We don't travel for milestones. We don't travel to get trophies, to get awards. We travel for experiences. So what was this trip about? So this trip looked something like this, if you have to put it down on a map. We started in Bangalore and we went all the way up, as further up as we could go. We were close to Pakistan and China border, and then we came down. Now a lot of you must be wondering what kind of planning went into this and what kind of thoughts we put into it while doing this trip. But to be honest, we didn't plan a trip like this. We planned a much smaller trip. And over the course of time, as the journey kept growing, we let it open up in front of us. We didn't shut it down. So we'll talk about that. We started from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Nagpur. This whole mid-India stretch was good highways and nice terrain. We got into Madhya Pradesh. We haven't heard a lot about travel and tourism in Madhya Pradesh, but Madhya Pradesh is a really beautiful state to travel through, especially by roads. They have some of the best roads, best forests. We went up to somewhere near this place called Sioni. There's a forest reserve that has tigers, and I have a short video clip that I took there. We'll look at that. So the first 3 days of our journey was just this. It was just beautiful highways and forests. And initially when we started, this is not what we had planned. We had planned to ship the bikes to Chandigarh, like most people do when we go to mountains. And we were supposed to ride around the mountains, come back to Delhi and ship the bike back. But 3 or 4 days before the trip, the railways hiked the shipping fees by a little bit. We needed an excuse not to ship the bike. So we ended up riding, and this is what we saw for the first 2 or 3 days. The only other people who were traveling on these roads were truckers, and you would have noticed some people walking. This was a pilgrimage, and they were mostly elderly people. Other than that, we didn't see the regular cars, we didn't see the regular motorcycles, nothing. It was just empty roads like this. So we rode, third day we reached just before Jhansi. How many of you know the Chambal region, Morna, and you've heard of this place? So it was evening, and we had about 20, 30 kilometers more to Chambal, and we didn't want to get there in the night because of people like Pan Singh Tomar and Daku Man Singh and Fulan Devi were all from this region. So we stopped at this dhaba for dinner. We had our dinner. The friendly owners got chatting with us, and we said, we'd like to stay here. We don't want to travel up in the night. They were very courteous. And most of our trip was like this. It was not planned. We didn't book hotels. We had no targets. We had no deadlines. I think that is what made this trip the way it became by the end of it. The next morning, we woke up, and we were a couple of hours away from Agra, if I remember. We were supposed to reach Delhi by noon. And me and Abhi, the friend who were riding from Bangalore, we were, in the morning, we had chai, and we were high-fiving, saying we made it. It was really hot. It was tough. And while we were doing this guy rides up on his cycle and comes and asks us, starts chatting with us, saying, what are you doing? And we told him, we're doing this trip. We're coming from Bangalore. We're going all the way to the mountains. And then we asked him, what are you up to? He said, I'm cycling from a small village in Maharashtra, and I'm going to Amarnath. This is my 12th day on the road. This is my 12th day on the road, and I've been doing this for 33 years. This is his 33rd trip. No fancy gear, no preparation, no phone, no backup. No hydration packs, nothing. Sorry? He was alone. It was just him and with one small Jola. He's been doing it for 33 years. Our high-fiving stopped. Our excitement stopped in a good way. We became very humble after meeting this person. What we're doing is not all that big. Somebody with a will to do things they're doing much better things than what we're doing. Yeah, so we went past Taj Mahal, we reached Delhi, Abhi and me. Abhi plays with a band, I'm a sound engineer. Both of us had gigs in Delhi. So we reached Delhi, and she'll take over from here, she's been quiet.
All right. So from Delhi, a few of our friends also joined us. 6 of us set out on 5 bikes, and on our way we were welcomed by the best parathas and lassi in Punjab. And it was a very hot day. We reached Himachal, and as soon as we saw the hills, it was such a relief from the heat. We stopped over for a snack in Chamba. It was actually late evening, and we were looking for a place to stay. There were no rooms. We stopped at this shop for a few snacks, and the owner there, he offered us this empty room here to stay. It was actually a shop. There was nothing in it. We knew we were not going to find anything later, and it would be risky to ride late in the evening. We took it up immediately. He offered us this space. There's a shutter that you cannot see over here. We shut the room. And he offered us his own house toilet for us to use. We asked him how much the charge for the stay was the next morning. You won't believe it. He didn't take any penny from us. And Rajiv Kumar, the shop was owned by him. Rajiv Kumar and his family was our first encounter with the warmth of the people living in the mountains. And a little later, we realized that the harsher the mountain gets, the more humble the people get. This is the day we upped our ante. We stopped at a place called Bhanjraru. It was about 7 p.m. We wanted to camp, we wanted to take our tents out. The initial excitement was still there. But there was no luck. We got no help from the cops or the locals on any place that we could camp in over there. Unfortunately, we had no luck in finding rooms too. Luckily, there were some people at a government guest house over there who offered us their lawn to camp in. Now, this whole place was fully accommodated, but they were kind enough to tell us, you can use the space outside, you can set up your tents, you can use our kitchen to cook your own food. And we got a strange advice from them. They said, don't eat in the hotels outside. So this whole experience was a little odd for us. We felt some sort of odd vibes even while we spoke to the locals, even while we spoke to the cops over there. And the next morning we were chatting with some of the guests who were in the hotel, and we found out that this particular place is the entry point for terrorists from Pakistan, which is why they're a little hostile to people, to strangers, and to people who they have never seen before. How many of you have heard of the Sach Pass? So you know how mighty this pass is, right? Unfortunately, we were still sleepless and shaken from our last evening's experience. And we put the real lie detector here because this is a pass that decided whether we really wanted to go ahead with our journey. It tested both of us, our mindset, and all of our bikes. It temporarily broke us down too. We took a couple of falls through this pass. It made us question why we wanted to do this journey, if we can do this journey at all, and should we go ahead with the journey. It's easily one of the most treacherous passes. What you see here is only the boulders. What we fell into were the streams that went over the boulders. So when you're on the bike, you don't see what's under the water. Sometimes it's steep, sometimes there are huge boulders. You don't know where to put your leg, you might just fall off. And that's what happened to us. And it's only our gear that saved us. Any trip that you do, make sure you protect your body very well. We were wearing knee guards, we were wearing very good helmets, jackets with good shoulder protection. Otherwise, we would have had some serious injuries here. Over to Rahul.
So, Sach Pass, we didn't take many pictures because by the time we actually got to the pass, we were drenched and it was snowing. It was windy, the water in our jackets and our clothes started freezing, so there was no scope for taking the camera out and getting any pictures. But we were stranded here for, this is once we got over the pass, just while we were descending the pass, we came across this glacier. It was about, I think, about 80 or 100 feet, 80 meters long across. And there's this tunnel that they've cut across for vehicles to move through. We were stranded here for about maybe 45 minutes, wondering what to do because the water was very, very forceful and it's ice cold. One of us tried to get in, but no, because of the water, the temperature of the water, we came out. So it was 3 p.m. by then, and post-noon is a bad time to cross glaciers because by then the sun's out at its peak and these melt at a very high rate. So the water flow is really high. And there's no way we could have spent the night there because it's just barren land, no water. And our tents would have probably blown away if we in this terrain. A pickup truck was coming in the opposite direction. We stopped him. That was our big ray of hope. And we asked him to help us take the bikes across 2 at a time. And he was in a rush. He's like, it's already 3. I need to go over the pass. I'm sorry, I can't help you. You just figure your way out. And Kishore was our savior, the guy who's just at the edge of the pass. So he said he's a really big-built guy, and he's the only one who can actually hold on to a bike if it has to be held on to. He got into, can you see the little turbulence water there? So that was the deepest point. It was about knee-deep for him. He went and stood there while 4 bikes went by. He pushed them out of it. We really have no idea how he did it. He pushed 4 bikes out. Me and him were left behind. As soon as he got out of the water, he was screaming his lungs out for over a minute because of the frostbite, cold bite. It was luckily not frostbite, but it was almost there. I don't know what to do because I was the only one on this side of the crossing and everybody else is on the other side. He just screamed and I just let him be. I said, okay, let him scream, let him get over the pain. Once he could get a hold of himself, he sat on the bike and started. I have a small video here. It doesn't show the intensity of what happened, but you will still get an idea. foothills of the mountain. They saw us wet and they asked us, "What are you doing? Why are you wet?" They quickly made us some hot water. They gave us water to drink. They had some biscuits. They gave us some biscuits, and we continued the journey. Next up was Killard. I don't know how many of you have heard Killard. Most of the bikers would have. So our next stop was Killard. This was the Pangi Valley, which is an absolutely beautiful valley, except for the roads. Maybe the reason it's still beautiful is the roads. You can't get there, you can't disturb it. It has its own way of refreshing every year. So every year the snow forms over the road. No matter what you build is going to be washed out once the ice starts melting. So this is nature's way of preserving itself. We couldn't take pictures. We were soaked. Our baggage was soaked. But we enjoyed the ride. It was tough. We were either riding on boulders or we were riding on red soft soil, which came off some landslide, which when wet is again slush. We made it. We reached Killard that night. Somehow managed to dry our clothes, and next day headed out to cross into Jammu and Kashmir. And here our bike didn't pull up because we were with a pillion, and the front wheel would barely stay on the ground because of the angle of approach onto these hills. So she had to trek most of this route up onto the hill. Killard and Kishtwar route, please check it out if you're ever in that side and you feel adventurous. You must head into that road. It's these rock cut. It's just like a small half cave cut on the edge of the rocks, and you just travel along it. There are rocks still falling from up, so we couldn't stop. We were not allowed to stop there to take pictures. There was PWD constantly working on the road because there are a couple of landslides every day, so these guys are ready to push it out within an hour or half an hour. We were not allowed to stop to take pictures, and it's a terrorist infested area, so they didn't want anybody to be there. They just sent us through. We passed this. We reached Kishtwar in the night, another beautiful town in Jammu and Kashmir. And then we reached Sintantop, which is another pass. Beautiful meadows just before the pass, unbelievable. We crossed this pass, and from this rocky, rough terrain, it becomes the Jammu and Kashmir that we see in pictures. Absolutely mind-blowing. The tall pine trees, steep slopes, green, crystal clear water streams. We all just unanimously decided and stopped at a point. There were no hand signals, there was no stop, let's wait here. All of us just got over the pass and just stopped. Everybody just parked their bikes. Nobody's talking to each other. We just sat there for, I think, a couple of hours, at least 1.5, 2 hours, and just absorbed this whole thing and continued down. Unfortunately, as soon as we got off this, we were off news, we were off newspapers, radio, nothing, so we didn't know what's happening. As soon as we got off, we heard that there's a curfew in Anantnag and Srinagar because some minor kid was shot by the army the previous day. And by this time, we were chasing time because some of the guys traveling with us had deadlines, they had to get back. So we decided to ride through the curfew. We rode, we were welcomed with mobs with sticks and stones. Luckily, nobody hit us. I don't know why, whether it was all the gear that we were wearing or it was her sitting on the back seat and very religiously waving at everyone, because that's what she did all through the trip, and she continued that habit. So maybe the waving just kept them out of our way. So we eventually managed to go through the curfew, and now it's time for that game. Not very difficult. Anybody? I got an answer there. It's very easy. So you get your goodie. You can collect it. Srinagar. We reached Srinagar that day, but we were not ready to enjoy a city after being on those kind of roads and those kind of highways. The city, the traffic, the crowd, it just suddenly started getting to us. We didn't realize that it would get to us so fast. And even Dal Lake is nice, but we didn't get to enjoy it because there are these constant guys on small boats that keep coming and try to sell stuff. So they don't let you be at peace. So 1 minute there's ice cream, second minute there's something, and then there's something. So it's a constant botheration. But it is a beautiful lake. Apparently in the winter it's even better. We'll probably try and visit there in the winter sometime. You want to talk?
And then we set out for Leh. Now, right from the beginning, the destination. This is when, this is what brought us back into focus. We realized there were so many things around us that we hadn't admired yet. This is a place called Sonmarg. We also took a time out by the river. Too long, you're going to go way beyond your deadline. And our next stop was, not stop, this Kargil was on our way. It was in Ladakh itself. We all know about Kargil and Tiger Hill because of the Kargil War, right? And this was, we reached right in time for the Memorial Day rehearsals. We even saw an army band play and rehearse. Until I saw this, I thought of the army as mercenaries. I thought they're just doing what they were paid to do. It's only when I saw this that I saw the names. I saw these were people. These are human beings who have actually sacrificed their lives for someone like me, who they don't even know. There are careers like being in the army, being in journalism, which takes a certain mindset. You need to be patriotic. You really need to love your country. And this is what taught me that. Journalism and Kargil War, the obvious thought was Barkha Dutt. I used to be a journalist earlier, and I had this newfound admiration for her. Being a woman, she was the first person to cover a live war in India. Guess who we come across? So she was going to cover the Memorial Day, and she was there for about 3-4 days. She even tweeted this picture. It's embarrassing for me to say this, but as soon as I spotted her, I started to jump with excitement, and I think she even saw me jumping there. And though we were supposed to get to Leh, it got late, and there was a beautiful place that we could stop at, La Mayuru. It's known for its monastery, which is built into the caves of the mountain. Now it's been declared unsafe and we're not allowed to go into it. It's also the first Bon monastery, that's a sect of Buddhism. This was on the way to Leh. When we took a break, the bikes found their playground as well. Just before Leh, we had stopped for lunch, and we met this father and son duo who were riding to Leh as well. We got chatting with them, and we asked them where they were going from. They were from a village in Punjab, and they were riding to Leh. And during the conversation, they said they realized traits in each other. They saw traits in each other which they hadn't seen before. Now the father realized that the son is patient and strong, and the son realized that the father is adventurous, and that's where he got his genes from. And we got to Leh. Surprisingly, it was not as exciting for us after the long journey that we had had already. There was the Khardungla Pass. You know what most of you hear, this is one of the most difficult passes because it's the highest motorable road, right? It was very easy. You shouldn't believe everything you see or read online. Go experience it for yourself. Also get to know the local culture while you're there. Have some of the local food. Here's one more opportunity to win some goodies. Guess where this was taken? Anybody? Nubra, yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Have you been there? That's why. So there's a desert with sand and camels and sand dunes right in the middle of the Himalayas. And instead of a hot desert, it's a very cold desert there. And these are Bactrian camels. They are double-humped camels. You don't find them anywhere else in the world. And we decided to camp here by a river. Again, we got a chance to take our tents out. This is also the place where I first spotted a shooting star. And there's no better place to see this. The sky is filled with stars, and you spot a shooting star at least once every 20-25 seconds. In the picture, you also see plastic bottles and some polythenes. Don't litter. Reuse plastic bottles if you're carrying them. That's what we did. We filled water from the streams into the bottle, Be a responsible traveler. Doesn't matter if you're in the mountains or if you're even around. Also, don't miss an opportunity to meet new people. On a serious note, make conversation with locals. You'll learn things about the place and about what people eat over there because it might help you during a journey. For instance, we found out that having butter in a high altitude will help to prevent nosebleeds and it'll protect you from extreme cold. The scenery also kept changing rapidly. This is what we started from. It's a high altitude desert. A few minutes later, it turned into these meadows. Almost an hour later, we were making snowmen, though it looks like a snow bunny here. And there was the inevitable. There were lots of repairs which we had to do on the way. We had someone who's technically sound. He's already into automobiles. He keeps fixing things all the time. Rahul also conducts workshops in basic maintenance and repairs of bikes. You can,
coming to maintenance and repairs, this is something that every traveler, especially in a car or a motorcycle, should do a little homework. It pays. This was not our first puncture, and we also happen to help a lot of other people along the way. So when I say homework, first one is learn your motorcycle. Most of the long distance travelers do it, but first timers usually ignore this part. You know, something as simple as reading your bike's owner manual, nobody does it. So just reading your bike's user manual, learning how to fix punctures. Puncture is a very, very easy thing to fix, but it's very tricky. Because while fixing the puncture, you can completely rip your tube out and be stranded permanently. So do these things, small carburetor fixes if you have a carbureted bike, because carburetors are the first things to go because of bad fuel or anything. It could be dirt going in from your air intake. These are not difficult fixes, very simple fixes. Learn how to read signs from your machine, be it a car or a bike. And the quickest signs you'll hear is the signs of sound. Suddenly it starts sounding different or it starts behaving different. Start reading these signs early. Don't wait for something to happen until you actually get down and check why it's making that sound. So the old saying, a stitch in time saves 9, aptly applies here. Do daily checks in the morning if you're on a long trip. Wake up in the morning before you start. If it is possible, clean the bike, because while cleaning you will notice nuts and bolts are loose or something is missing from your bike or tail light has fallen off. So do these small checks in the morning, check your engine oil, check all these basic things. And this is also another reason I would encourage you to travel with your bike instead of going to a place and hiring a bike to get into this kind of a terrain. Because with a new bike, you wouldn't know, you won't be able to read the signs. You won't be able to know whether it's functioning normally or not. We heard a story about a guy in Spiti whose rental bike kept breaking down, and he finally, on his way to one of the passes, he pushed the bike off the mountain. Because he couldn't handle it anymore. It just constantly kept breaking down on him, and he just pushed it and he trekked his way to Kaza, which was some 3-day trek, which would have been a 1-day bike ride. So to avoid that, it's very easy these days to get your bike shipped to wherever you want. If you want to do the Northeast, for example, you don't have to ride from here. Get your bike shipped to either Calcutta or Siliguri and ride from there. That's a better way to do it than going there and hiring an unknown bike. Prepare with some tools, watch your mechanics fix your bikes. Just sitting there and watching them, you'll learn a lot. And even if you know how to fix, if you don't have the right tools, you'll still be stuck. Some basic survival with the motorcycle, some hacks you can learn from your mechanic. Mechanic is a good source, YouTube is another good source, but don't believe everything on YouTube. Try it out for yourself before you actually have to try it out in the wilderness. Hang on.
So this must be a very familiar sight. Most of you have seen Three Idiots, right? Yeah. So this lake also extends into China. That's something we learned only when we got there. And the color of the lake, as soon as we spotted it in the dry brown, it looked like sapphire. It was bright blue in color. And the color of the lake also keeps changing. It's because of the minerals in the water and because of the reflection of the sky. We were lucky to spot this on our way down to Leh again. What you see, the green patch over there, that is Leh. We saw the rain from one side, there was golden sunlight from the other side, and where we were standing, there was snow. It was snowing. Salt lake.
So this is Sokar, a salt lake. I'm sure anybody who's done a little research on getting to Leh or something would have seen all these pictures. For those you haven't, this is Sokar. It's a salt lake. There's barely any life around it. All the white stuff you see is salt. There's a very pungent smell, but the ride to it is beautiful. It's a plateau and clear dirt track, no boulders, nothing. It's just mud, and you can pretty much ride as fast as you want. From here on, we exited back onto the Leh-Manali highway, which is another beautiful highway to travel on. I'm sure it's there. You would have seen it in a lot of lists. Must travel road trip, must do road trip. This is what you will see on most of the Leh-Manali highway. It's these sand and rock formations that happen when the glaciers melt. It just takes a little of rock, a little of sand, and goes along. Another thing about traveling in the mountains is you see things very far. So what you might think is a kilometer or two away, when you actually try getting there, it's over 30 kilometers. This kept happening to us, especially when we are descending from mountains. We'd see the town, we're like, oh, it's right there, we're going to have lunch. And then it would take us 4 hours to get there. So this is also probably a few tens of kilometers, but it looks like everything is very near. It was also very windy here. We had a tough time keeping the bike straight, especially when we had to wear raincoats because they hold air back and you feel like you become a parachute. And just before Gata Loops, we met Ian. He's second from the right. So this was his 6th week riding from Netherlands. So he rode through Germany and the whole of Europe and Turkey and Afghanistan, Pakistan, and he got in India. He's on his way to Australia. So we rode with him for a day. We camped together in the night, and the next day midway we parted ways. He was on a much bigger bike at a much higher pace, and he had to cover a lot more distance than we had to. It was a nice, very well prepared guy, which is very rare to see. And yeah, so we wished him luck, and we're still in touch with him. How many of you knew this? There we have one. So fuel is, apart from food and water and shelter and everything, fuel is also a big problem. So 365 kilometers, I think this is the furthest two fueling stations are apart in India. And to our great luck, we went to fill, and the previous group before us filled, and it was a car went, and the first guy among the 4 of us, when we went to fill, the pump breaks down. It just stops working. And the guys at the fueling station tried to fix it, no luck, and we waited for about 4 or 5 hours. Somebody from the next town had to come and get it working again. Yeah, but it was a nice stop because there's a river just behind the petrol pump, and there's a mangrove, so it was a nice 5-hour unplanned picnic for us. This is the beauty of not planning and traveling. You don't have reservations to catch up to, you don't have anything to catch up to. So we enjoyed this, and instead of hitting Leh that day, we stopped in this place, Chandra Valley. This is a campsite. I don't know if you can see the tent on the right. There are ropes coming out of it. This is easily the most beautiful campsite we got through our journey. It's actually 1 feet of shrubs that we had to push the bike through to get to this place. We stayed here the night, and next day was Spiti. Spiti was one of the reasons we did the trip. We wanted to touch Spiti. Leh was an extension of the trip, but everything worked out. And as soon as we start getting into Spiti, this happens. We took the diversion 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers in. At the second river crossing, one bike gives up. The clutch plates just burn out. There was nothing we could do to get that bike back on the road. So vehicle movement is very, very less here, and we had to wait for about 4 or 5 hours for this. Everything in there is at least 4 hours. Here, like, it's 15 minutes, you get a cab in 15 minutes, you can reach somewhere in 15 minutes. There it's 4 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. So 5 hours, I think, for this truck. And we were just sitting outside the Nala waiting. Somehow we didn't take pictures because of all the stress. It was a really bad Nala. So in those 5 hours, there was an Innova stuck for 2 hours who finally ripped one of his tires completely shred because of the rocks underneath. And he got tugged out with another truck. There was a Santro who was trying to get to Spiti somehow. He, at the first, I think 10 feet, he got stuck and they took 30 minutes to lift the car and put it back on the road, and he did the smart thing, turned around and went back. There was a truck that was stuck there for an hour and to pull him out, there were 2 trucks who had to be tied to pull that guy out of there. This trucker was kind enough, he quickly let us put the bike in and we headed up to Bathal, which was our destination for the day.
So, around Bathal, in Bathal there was this Chacha and Chachi who ran a shop, and 100 kilometers from there, there's no way you can find any fuel, there's no place to buy rations from, there's no permanent human settlement at all. This Chacha and Chachi, their actual names are Dorji and Chandra. They are a couple in their mid-50s. They visit Bathal 4 months in a year, 3 to 4 months a year, just with a service mindset. They're also known as the savior couple of Spiti Valley. They've been in the news a couple of times and they've won some bravery awards too. Anybody who's stranded around the region, they stay over here. And what they charge is nothing, they don't make any profit out of it. So they just come here with a service mindset and they go back to their place in Manali for the rest of the year.
So these are 2 friends who were hitchhiking through Spiti, and while we were just leaving, these guys were sitting outside Chandra Dhaba, Chacha Chachi's place. So we happened to chat with them and I asked them, where are you from? Very firm answer, Shimla. I said, where are you going to? We don't know. Then I said, how are you traveling? We don't know. I said, so what is happening? They're like, we're just out for 2 months and we don't know where we're going, we don't know why we're going, but we're out for 2 months and we're just making the best of it. So they've trekked a part of their journey, they've taken rides on buses, they've taken lifts from various people, and now they're just sitting there waiting for somebody to take them ahead to anywhere. They don't care where. So this was a nice duo we met. The trucker who took the bike breaks down a couple of kilometers down the road. He snaps an axle at the back. And so all of us got together, tried to fix it, tried to pull the axle out, nothing. It's just stuck there. And we spent half a day there trying to help them. Then we went back to Chacha Chachi's place to get them lunch, and so we were servicing them for half a day, trying to get that truck working. Finally, they said, no, it's not going to work, and we will have to go down to, by the way, Chandra Dhaba has the only satellite phone in that whole region. Governments provided them with that for emergencies. So these guys went down, made a call, and a truck has to come from Manali with the spare axle. So we were stranded once again, way behind our schedule. While we were at the dhaba, so we went back to get lunch, and while having lunch, we just sat there and we noticed a bus had stopped there for lunch. And we just asked the drivers, is there any way we can take a bike? A bike is stranded up there. And they're like, no, you look at the bus, it's full. It's full inside, it's full on top. It's just packed because it's the only bus it's one bus that runs on this route every day. We said no, and they started having their lunch. All of us sat inside, wondering what to do. Kishore, the guy whose bike broke up, had just given up, so he went to sleep. He was also exhausted from the whole truck journey. And we just watched these truckers eat. I mean, they were sitting there, they were eating, they were having their usual conversation. They finish washing and they just get up to wash their hands. They turn around at us and they're like, "Chadha hai bike?" And all of us suddenly all ears up and we're like, okay, let's go. And the bus guys were quite helpful. The passengers quickly moved up. Even though there was no place, they all moved up. And we managed to get the bike on top of the bus. And Kishore, with the bike, headed to Spiti on the bus. We also got a nice applause once the bike was up because it was just 3-4 bikers trying to figure a way. We were not professional loaders. So yeah, so Spiti, this is, we gave the bus a head start because we are on bikes, we're much faster. So we let the bus, and we paced slow. We kept stopping for chai and this and that, thinking the bus is going to anyway take time. And the bus drivers surprised us, so really surprised us. They reached way faster than us. They reached there, they waited for us to come and unload the bike. Their timing, their skill, their experience with these roads is something else. For us, it is adventure. For them, it is, it's just every day. I go this road today and I am back the next day. So they patiently waited for us. We went, managed to unload the bike in Kaza, find a mechanic, but the mechanic was only the next day. So we used this time. We spotted this just next to the bus station. We didn't know this. It's the highest retail fuel outlet in the world, the Kaza petrol pump. So we took time out. We went to Ki, there's a monastery there. We went to Kibber, which is the highest permanent human settlement. And while we were there, somebody told us about this thing called a Jula. They said, you have to go and try it. It takes you across the mountain to another place called Chicham, which is the last town in that stretch. Unfortunately, we reached in the night. It was a good couple of 100 feet drop in there. It's just this metal basket, and some locals helped us try this thing out. If you're ever that side, this is the last remaining Jula in that whole region. They're all becoming bridges over time. So this is still there. If you ever get a chance in the next 1 or 2 years, you should try this out. You will conquer your fear of heights if any one of you has it. It'll be gone by the time you come back from this ride. This is Spiti. And that board there says you are traveling on the world's most treacherous roads. We saw the board a little too late because we saw it while we were getting out of Spiti, not while getting in. But these boards are nice because when you just start doubting whether what you did was a wise thing, these kind of boards encourage you because you're actually doing something that not many people do. So this board was good encouragement. We finally got out of this. We had not seen tarmac, I think, for 3 weeks. And as soon as we got out of this, I think about 20 kilometers from this board, the tarmac started, and suddenly the bike seems to not behave properly. It's going straight instead of going left and right. So it took some time to adjust to the tarmac again. But yeah, just a short clip. This is Lahore, majestic mountains. Roads here were not that great, but otherwise it was really nice. Fear of heights will be gone if you're in this region. A little ahead from here, the two other bikers split and we were again left. Abhi and me were left. They had deadlines to get back. They had to come back and their leaves were getting over. We split ways, and as soon as we split, Abhi and me were back to our routine, let's not take the highway, let's find something else. So we had to get to Rampur, and we saw this small diversion, and we asked some people, does this go to Rampur? Like, it goes, but it'll take you a very long time, why don't you just take the highway? We said no, and we got back in here. After a point, we were lost. There was nobody to ask for directions, there were no boards. So we just kept going to see where the road finally takes us. We were lost, but in a different way. This was a nice way of being lost. This whole day was spent riding in roads like this. We came across about 50 landslides, and it was not as regularly maintained as some of the other more used routes. So we had to go over the debris that comes from the landslide, but the scenery, the beauty of this place just made up for all that effort that we had to put in. There were no shops for chai, so these were our breaks on the way. Every time we'd find a stream, stop, fill up our water bottles, have our snack that we were carrying, and so the whole day was spent like this. Finally, we exited, found our way out of that forest into Dehradun, where we found a Royal Enfield service center which was shutting for the day, but they were kind enough to open it up just for us. They worked till about 9 p.m. Royal Enfield doesn't do that. Office shuts at 6, they stop working at 4. But these guys were really nice. They fixed up our bikes. There was a lot of work that needed to be done because we were in that terrain for 3 weeks without a proper service. Some of us also needed a fix, apart from the bikes. So she's out there knocked out inside the room. And we headed out. Our next stop.
One sec. Then we headed off to Varanasi. This is the Dashashwamedh Ghat where the Ganga Aarti takes place. And all that we had heard about Banaras was about the history, and it was actually, I thought it was a boring place earlier. And once I got there, I realized that each place has its own energy. And that's one place that I would like to go back to again. It's also one of my favorite places because they serve dessert for breakfast. It's puri and jalebi. And you must try the local food wherever you go. Banaras is also known for their milk sweets. And very close to Varanasi was Sarnath. This is where Buddha gave his first sermon. Time for our guess game again. Guess where this was taken?
Sorry? Somebody said Gaya? Yeah, you got it right.
Okay, so this is the Mahabodhi temple in Bodh Gaya. This is where Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. It's known as the most holy Buddhist place. And over here we were blessed with rains like never before. And we rode through Jharkhand into Orissa. Jharkhand, we don't have many pictures here, but it's a beautiful state with lush green forests. Rahul is also from Orissa. I don't know how many of you know that. So we entered Orissa, and this was just after the floods had taken place. We missed the floods by a couple of days. The water was still logged and the highways were elevated. There were a little patches of the flood again, but it was easily manageable. There was traffic going through. Guess where this was taken?
Konark.
Yes, Konark.
You got it right.
All right, so this is the Sun Temple at Konark. Orissa, okay, this is, yes.
Yeah, so you notice what's behind her? Sweet shop. So she stuffed herself before leaving Orissa. We were about to leave Bhubaneswar. So it was new for her. She discovered that some of the best sweets are made in Orissa. And this is one example. The rasgullas. These were easily the best rasgullas. Not to trigger any regional differences, but these rasgullas will any day beat the Bengali rasgullas. We've had both. Also, a new discovery she made, aloo-dum, dahi bara. I don't know how many of you are from Orissa or West Bengal. Some of the best charts also were from Bhubaneswar. Next, once we exited this, we were in Andhra. Andhra was extremely hot. Andhra also has some beautiful stretches, especially around Visakhapatnam and that. But we just rode through Andhra. We didn't stop anywhere. Next, it was Tamil Nadu. We decided to drop by the Royal Enfield factory, where the bike was made. But due to some time restrictions, we couldn't get into the factory for a visit. But we at least made it till there. On our way out of Chennai, we met these guys doing a rickshaw run. I don't know how many of you have heard of the rickshaw run. So this thing starts in Shillong and ends in Kochi. You get assigned a rickshaw, you have a partner, and you just ride across the country. So these guys had broken down, managed to get their auto moving, not working, moving, so they could get to the next town to fix it. They were quite thrilled. They're still in touch. They're from UK. And roads through Tamil Nadu were great. Not many stops again. We just kept riding. This is just outside Madurai. This was just outside Madurai. And now we have one more last, guess where? Kanyakumari. Who got that? You already got one. Yeah. So you got it, Kanyakumari. So this was Kanyakumari. This was the sunrise at Kanyakumari. We had no idea that we're going to be so thrilled to be there, because after all that travel, getting to places had become a part of our system. But as soon as we got to Kanyakumari, it was a different feeling. That was the end of land. It's only up from there. There was no more down. The cops were kind enough to let us take our bikes down the rock place. Bikes are usually not allowed here, but when we asked them, they let us. We were happy we started it. This was not part of the original trip, but we're happy we started it. We're happy we got there. And on our way back to Bangalore from there, ant in the elephant's trunk. How many of you have heard this story? Nobody? So an ant can trouble an elephant by just crawling into its trunk. It doesn't have to do much. So that's what happened. An ant found its way into the carburetor main jet and just kept bothering the bike for a couple of hours until it finally shut. And the last thing I suspected was an ant. So we started opening all the way, and when I dropped the carburetor, I saw an ant still alive, sitting in the main jet, not letting fuel pass. So got him out and carried on the journey, and we were back in Bangalore the same day. So now that was the trip. That was part of the trip. And thank you. So we just wanted to touch on a few things that might be beneficial to you and beneficial to us as well. These are small reminders for us. So why you must travel? Ancient cultures have always had travel as part of enlightenment, part of graduating into a sect or a community. You need to make a trip alone, solo trip. So travel has always been regarded and is a proven way to learn. To learn things that you wouldn't learn otherwise in school and at workplace, at your home, in your city. So travel, pilgrimages also involve treacherous journeys. That's for a reason. These treacherous journeys do something to you. They open up your mind. They give you a new sense of determination when it comes to doing anything, not just the travel. Travel also, what it did to us is it made us sensitive to our surroundings. Suddenly we started noticing everything around us. We started noticing people, how they behave. We started reading signs about places. We started feeling vibes from different places, whether it's safe, unsafe, should we spend time here, should we not. And the best of all, we could start telling weather. We could start telling rain a couple of hours before it actually hit us. Because the first few times we got washed out. And then we started smelling rain, we started feeling the humidity change. We could actually tell these things while we were traveling. Once we're back here, I think we've kind of lost it again. We have to be on the road to have it. So we have to have these reminder journeys again. Changes the way you think. It installs new faith in you. Because when you started it, and you go through this whole process of, should I do it, should I not do it, let me go back from here, let me ship the bike, let me just fly back. And by the time you finish the whole thing and come back, you have new faith in yourself, which nothing else can help you with. It's not your teachers, it's not your bosses, it's not your colleagues. Nobody can install this kind of faith in yourself that travel can. And another big thing is travel teaches you to be calm in tense situations. What we realized is when you're in a tense situation, the easiest way out, the safest way out is to keep calm. And there's no better way to learn it than traveling, because you have no choice. You have no backup. You have nobody to take your burden for you. You have to learn to be calm to get out of situations. Especially on the treacherous roads and river crossings, every time we'd get tense, we'd fall. We learn to tune ourselves into this state of mind where we're calm and we calculate and get out of there without tensing up. Jalaja, do you have anything to add? Why we travel?
Yeah, it also changes the way you think. For instance, one question that I started asking myself is, what is home? Home to me was Cochin, that's my hometown, or Bangalore, that's where I live now. But all throughout the journey, every place that I was in, I felt like I was home. I never felt homesick. I never felt any discomfort of being in a different place. So questions like, where are you from, where do you live, where are you born, these are different. But I realized that home is just a feeling. It's about being content where you are, being content with the situation, with the people around you, making peace with the surroundings.
And now some tips on how to plan or not plan something like this. I'll quickly run through this. We are going to run out of time very fast. Don't overplan is the first thing I'd like to tell you. Don't go booking nice hotels, getting tickets done. You know, when you're traveling for a long time, don't do that. Just plan a skeleton, get a rough idea of where you want to be in the next couple of days, or this will help you not get stranded. You know, you don't want to be stranded in between two towns where there's no food, no water, no fuel. Don't plan it. Just get a rough sketch of your route. Do your research well, especially for places to stay. By places to stay, I don't mean hotels, but towns. You know, fairly populated towns where you won't have trouble, or in case you need to restock on supplies, you need to restock on things, you have that. Make your journey your own. How many of you have traveled just for traveling, gone to places? Everybody has done it. Okay. How many of you have made a must-see to-do list? Everybody's done it. Don't do that. Those lists are somebody else's. They're not yours. Don't live somebody else's journey. When you're traveling, if food is what you're traveling for, spend all your time looking for food. Don't go and visit that temple because it's famous. Don't go visit that church because it's famous. Don't go to that architectural site because it's famous. It's yours. You're making these experiences. Don't follow someone else's list. Small tip about packing, pack less. The lesser you pack, the more flexible your plans can get. You can suddenly switch from traveling by a bus or train to trekking. If you have two big bags that you need to lug around, you don't have that flexibility. So pack less. What we did is over the years, through all our travels, we made a list, and a list of essentials that we need to carry, and we kept fine-tuning this list. So every time we come back, we realize, okay, we haven't used this item, we haven't used this item, we haven't touched this item. So we take those out. We add something else that we bought on the trip. So this way, we've reached this very comfortable list, which is not very big, but it has everything that we need. This takes time. It's different for everybody. So there's no list you can follow. But do that. Make lists from all your travels and compile them together. You know, don't make them individual lists. Don't carry valuables, especially your wedding rings and gold jewelry and things like that. She has an interesting story about carrying valuables on a trip.
Yeah, I left all my valuables behind because my cousin has done a similar trip earlier. He lost his wedding ring in a toilet. And by a toilet, I don't mean a nice, shiny white loo, but a hole in the ground. It's a pit with stuff underneath. We can talk about it later.
So it's not necessarily a matter of safety or robbery or anything. You might just be careless and lose something valuable. Don't carry any valuables. Carry only things that you need for your trip. Always keep your phone and documents on you, on your person, not in a bag. When you keep it on you in a person, you're carrying it to the toilet, you're carrying it everywhere you go. That way you have a lesser chance of losing it or forgetting it behind. Make copies of documents and keep a set apart from the originals that are on you. Keep cash distributed in bags. Don't keep all the cash in your wallet, because if your wallet goes, you're done. So keep some cash in one bag. If you have two bags, distribute a little cash there, a little cash here, and some cash on yourself. Stay in crowded places post sunset if you're doing this kind of travel. Avoid going to isolated places unless you know they are safe for sure. Early mornings are always safer than late nights. Do you know what I mean by that? Start at 4:30 and travel 12 hours. Don't start at 9 and travel 12 hours, because you're riding into the night. Early mornings are always safer, so get that head start, start early. One is you'll be safe, two is all the regular traffic is not there. So you get that head start in the morning without any crowd. Now, how many of you had trouble with this? Everybody has trouble with this, including us. So when you're saving for a trip, you plan the trip first. Decide how much you need for the trip and then save for it. Don't save with the intention of doing a trip sometime in the future. A lot of us do that, right? You know, let's keep a trip budget. I have a lot of friends. Even I did that. Even I tried doing it. I didn't succeed. Let's save until February, and in February we'll plan and do a trip. That doesn't work. That's never worked for me, at least. So plan a trip. You know, decide that, okay, we're going here. For example, okay, I'm going to Bhutan for 15 days, and this is what I'm going to spend. Save for that. It's easier to work towards the goal than to just aimlessly save, and then you see that new Galaxy S6 Edge, and then that whole trip budget goes out. So make a plan and save for that. There are a lot of ways to invest for traveling. So what Jalaja did for the trip, she'll tell you.
It's okay.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do recurring deposits. You know what recurring deposits are. You can do recurring deposits that end a month or two before your trip. This is the easiest way to save, because it just goes out, keeps going out of your account every month. It doesn't have to be a big amount. It can be a very small amount. You know when you're going to get bonuses. Yeah? So you can plan your trips around that. Maturing policies, maturing investments. So you can plan trips around those.
That's what helped in my case. I
That's
knew
what
that
helped.
my policy was going to mature around this time, and we planned the trip around that period itself.
And travel minimal. I don't have to tell you that. Traveling minimal, apart from saving you budget, also exposes you to the true nature of your environment. If you're not traveling budget, you're going from one good hotel to another good hotel to another good hotel. You're not seeing what is there. You're being driven around, or you're being guided around by people who don't really connect with what is around them. So traveling budget saves you money, plus it exposes you to the true essence of a place. Apart from your trip budget, small advice is keep a buffer. For example, if you're doing a trip for 15 days, that's half a month's salary you would have earned if you worked those 15 days. So apart from your trip budget, keep that 15 days buffer that you would have earned if you were working those 15 days, so that your regular finances don't get hit. Because you still need to pay rent, you still need to pay your bills, even though you're not home, even though you're not going to work. So keep that buffer for the number of days you're traveling. Buy gear over time. Don't buy gear in December for a trip you're doing in January. That's going to completely wipe your budget out. So buy gear slowly over time. When you see offers, when you see used gear, very, very nice way to buy gear, used gear. Look for sales, look for offers, borrow stuff. Don't go spending on gear and things at the last hour. Spend on needs, not on wants. You walk into an adventure travel store, you will see a lot of things there that you think you will use. Trust me, you're not going to use any of them. End of the day, you're going to use a Swiss Army knife, you're going to use some tissues, you're going to use maybe a hand sanitizer, and you're going to use your clothes. There's nothing essential apart from those few things. Keep daily accounts. End of the day, make sure you have a total of what you spent. This is your best overspending warning. End of the day, you know if you've spent too much. Last thing we want to talk about, travel with your partner. When you travel adventure, nobody thinks about, it's usually a solo thing, but we'd encourage you to travel with your partners. You learn new things about each other. You see two perspectives to the same thing. It brings you closer. If you have issues, you have to resolve them then and there. There's no ignoring, there's no smartphone, there's no TV to go and put on. You have to resolve it, learn to resolve it, face it, and continue with the journey. Yeah? So you're stuck. Another thing, fitness is very important. So pay some attention to that as well. Don't suddenly go out doing an extensive travel. A month, 20 days of slight fitness regime will help you. And that brings us to the last slide of this. So this is the dictionary meaning of travel, which says go or be moved from place to place. Now this move is at a lot of different levels. It's not just physical movement, it's not just geographical movement. Hope this talk moves you enough to travel more. Thank you.